It's been a strange old year for us all. It's been tragic and sad and lonely for many. Rich or poor, not everyone's affected. Over 3 million people have died worldwide. We're here to discuss lockdown, how you handled it, the tragedy of the lives lost by the frontline staff, Steve Brown, the fact he's not with us, falling downstairs of all things, and the single that you just made with Paul and John. So why don't you start, Paul Gillies, with what the charity is about?
Well, listen, a huge thank you to all of my icons from the 80s. I can't even believe I'm on a call with you lot.
Hang on, there's some from the 70s here, thank you very much. I'm proud
Yeah,
of
right.
Yeah, well, I was still there, but I was, young.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Trousers, right.
it's an honor to be with you, and thank you so much for doing what you've done for this cause. It's, breathtaking, really is. And I saw the video yesterday, and I was speechless. Absolutely, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. So
great email.
The appeal. I was in the same place as I guess we all were, and my work was dried up, and we're sitting there thinking, what do I do now for the next 12 months or next few months, whatever it was going to be. And then Boris Johnson said 181 NHS workers have died, putting their lives at risk, and that sort of struck a chord with me. So I already met a lady called Luciane Lassalle, and I said to Luciane, I want you to make something for me. And we had a chat about it, and she came up with this thing, and we called it the Angels of the Nation. It's absolutely beautiful. It's about 34 centimeters high. It's quite heavy. It's a bit sort of cross between an Oscar and the front of a Rolls Royce kind of deal,
Very Art Deco.
Yeah, really, really deco, and that was one of the things that we quite wanted, So she made it. She's a beautiful woman. So she produced this thing, and we were absolutely bowled over in tears with it. And then we thought, okay, well, we'll contact the NHS Trust, the NHS, and say, right, anyone that's died, we want to give one of these to the family. And naively, I didn't realize that the NHS is not one body. It's 220 different trusts throughout the country. So we then spent the next 6 months phoning 220 trusts, trying to get through to somebody to say, if anybody's died, we want to present it to the family. It's been a nightmare, I think, but a pleasant one. Pleasant, the wrong word. It's been emotional, and a privilege to do it. And so far we've delivered 30. I've met those 30 families, and they're incredible people. They're so strong. They're so powerful. It's been absolutely incredible to do that. But we've got another 151 to go, and that's only the ones that we know from May last year. So that number could well have doubled. But my son and I, who work together, are adamant to do it. We've pretty much got most of the funding. If you've seen the Just Giving page, we're 74% there.
Wow.
We've got 70 sitting in a box here that hopefully we're going to ship to the BBC for have on their breakfast programme, so they can see them en masse and get a sort of feeling for this, as well as have this beautiful song played. So that's our goal, is that they do that. So I think that's the Angel in a nutshell. But again, thank you.
It's about creating momentum now, I guess.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Maybe pull in the resources, few contacts, seeing what, reach out to a few sort of radio jocks and TV people and see what can be done. Yeah.
It's incredibly.
Everyone's done a great job. I agree with you.
It's incredibly hard though. We fight with what can, some little 12-year-old can run around a football pitch, and all of a sudden we were on the TV, but now we're voted off because he's better TV. So it's you just don't know. You can think you're there, you think you've arrived. I mean, you guys have been, dealing with the media all your lives. I frankly, I don't want to do it again, but they're fickle. They're fickle, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it's true what you say at the moment with this, because it's a very short window of opportunity, and I know that we're all sort of trying to push to get that window before it becomes old news. But then that's also something that needs to be highlighted. People in the front line are still dying looking after other people. It didn't stop at May last year, So it's just reminding people again, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
lockdown, it's because of lockdown, me and Paul had the idea of recording these remote tracks, which is quite amazing. The technology to do it. How has lockdown for you, Steve?
Shall I say that again?
How was lockdown for you?
Me, mine was particularly, it's an incredible experience because I was looking after my mother she had a stroke and she had loads of sort of things. And then literally in lockdown, I grabbed her from London, brought her down here to Brighton. Sabrina came from Berlin, and we spent that together and looked after my mum until she passed away in last September. But it was the most incredible time, you know. I was caring for her for almost a year permanently, and I never would have had that time, and we wouldn't have had that time with her if it hadn't been for lockdown. So ours was beautiful. You know, so many great memories. She couldn't have got sick either side of lockdown or vice versa, and it wouldn't have been as perfect as it was. I mean, you know, that was fantastic. Since then, of course, I've had so much more time to dedicate to the music, even though busy as we all are. But it was an incredible experience for me, not like everybody else's. A lot of people have been suffering, I know that, but mine is like, I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. Josh?
Can you hear me, Ian?
Yeah, you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I wasn't sure. I said a few funny things and nobody heard me, so I stopped.
They weren't funny.
I don't know why, but it's so long ago that I can't remember whether it was funny or not now. Lockdown has been very strange for us all. I mean, obviously with Procol Harum, we've had a lot of shows cancelled, and this year has gone the same way. I mean, you know, it's just not going to happen. But going back to what Steve was saying there has really touched me, because I did mention this, Ian, to you the other day in a little not interview, but the piece I was writing. And Ian told me off like any good manager would. It's far too long. He said, save it for the interview. Yeah, my mother, she's still with us. She's 92 this year. She studied as a nurse before the NHS was a thing. She was a qualified nurse at St Thomas's Hospital at just after the war, Second World War, I mean. And she's worked all the way through as a nurse in the NHS, and ended up looking after old ladies, as she said, even though she was 85 herself.
Wow.
Didn't stop nursing and carried on. And she said, "Oh, I'm just out tonight, dear, to look after the oldies." And she was about 3,000 years old herself. And she said that, of course, she'd worked through the NHS all of those years. And in fact, about 10 years ago, the Norwich, she's up in Norwich these days, outside near the seaside there, brought it back to life. It's the truth, because she very nearly died of something very weird. And they saved her. And the lady, in as far as she remembered, because she's a terrible patient, being a nurse, of course, all of her life, and a nursing teacher and stuff. And she took everybody's that worked on her, everybody's name, nurses, doctors, consultants, everybody name, and remembered all of them. When they finally got her back up and running again, about 3 months later, she went back into that hospital with 46 presents for those people.
Wow.
And wrote to the hospital principal and said, "I've been a nurse all of my life, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to say thank you." And he said, "You know, it's so rare we ever get anything like this, any thank yous."
So sad.
Assume they're there, don't we? We just assume they're there, really at the point of use. And they're incredible people. And I've got 3 sisters, 2 of those are nurses as well. Wow. And I said to Ian in this little chat the other day, when I see that NHS logo, I've known that since I was a kid, that little NHS. Be it in the back of her Mini that she used to have as a district nurse, and there'd be incontinence pads in the back of the car, or syringes or whatever, in boxes of shit everywhere as a kid going to school. And, "Oh, I'll take one of these, a Mainline or something." But it was, well, I never sold any. But I've been around the NHS all the time. So for me, it's really dear to my heart, this whole thing.
Both your sisters?
Sorry, Ian, say that again.
Both your sisters?
I've got 3 sisters.
3?
And 2 of those are nurses as well. One of them studied at St Thomas's, like my mother, and the other at Guy's in London. They're both retired now, but my sister Caroline has come out of retirement to become a vaccination nurse. So they're still doing it, even though she's in her mid to late 60s now. So I just think, for me, this was just like a no-brainer.
Marcy, how is it in California?
Thank you.
Marcy?
Marcy?
Frozen. It's cold.
Cold.
Cold in LA.
So cold, she's frozen.
She'll be back in a second.
How about you, Tony?
Oh, sorry, me. Sorry, I've only got an iPad, so I have to go to see different people. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm with Josh and Steve. I mean, Steve just told a story about his mum, Sheila. I've known Sheila since your mum, Steve, since we were kids. And my mum and my mum, Jo, and Sheila, Steve's mum, were best pals. And so it was an end of an era.
Yeah.
When Sheila went. I mean, we've lost people this year as well. I was at a funeral just literally a few weeks ago. He was quite an older guy, but I was the youngest member of a lunchtime drinking club, and so I was an honorary young member. Yes, I'll drink to that. And bless him, what was so sad about him, Tim Gooch, he worked with, funny enough, Steve, you remember my granddad Bill T.
Yeah, cool.
When my granddad was an older guy in the print, Timmy Gooch was one of the younger guys. So they worked in the print down Fleet Street. All my family were printers down Fleet Street.
And they like a drink, don't they? As we know down there.
Just a tad. And anyway, so it was, he knew my granddad, and he was a self-made man, did incredibly well. But right at the end of it, he was in hospital, he got COVID, and he was very ill anyway. But his wife had COVID too. And the sad thing about this whole thing is that the only way she could say goodbye is they set up an iPad. So they a FaceTime. So she FaceTimed him basically, and said her goodbyes on the computer screen. And that was when they spoke about that at the funeral, that kind of really gets you. And you know, if you only have to imagine what the staff have been through. We've got quite a few friends of ours who are ICU doctors, consultants, and nurses and stuff. It has been horrific. It's been absolutely appalling. And when you speak to, I was speaking to Claire just the other week at cricket. She's a nurse there, and she said, I've never seen anything like it. And then we got long COVID to deal with as well. So it's been a real tough time. And for me, very quickly, you hear people moan about the NHS. I've never had a problem with it. Me and my family have been so well looked after by the NHS. They've been absolutely incredible. And thank God this country has got a unified NHS, because lots of other countries, including Germany as well, don't have the same mechanisms that we have over here. And that's why it was so easy for us to roll out the vaccine. So I absolutely take my hat off. Yeah, amazing people.
Great. Can you hear us now, Martin?
Yeah, I have a problem with my internet, which it's been attempted to be fixed 5 times, but that's a boring story. But anyway, I just want to say I'm really grateful to be part of this. And Glenn, I know you, and I saw you a few years ago. I don't know everybody else. I live in America, obviously, and I've had experience with the NHS when I'm married to a Brit. So when I was over in the UK, this was like in the late 80s, and I had an issue. I needed to go to the hospital. My husband took me, and I was worried about, who do I give my insurance card, and who, how am I going to pay for this? And the doctor, the doctor said, don't worry, we will take care of you no matter what, whether you can pay for it or not. That's what we do. And I was like, what? Oh my God, in America, it'll cost you like $100,000 to be in the hospital for a few days. It's just insanity. So,
wow.
I've had a little experience with the NHS personally, but I'm really happy to be a part of this cause. And I thank you so much for inviting me to to share the experience and to give, you know, for the cause.
Very
As
well.
far as lockdown, well, my husband went out foraging for us all the time. He wouldn't let, no, you stay home. So he went to the markets and everything. And the only thing I could really do to keep any sense of sanity was create. So I just spent all my time in this room that I'm in right now. And I wrote like probably over 60 songs. And I decided, well, I'm just gonna, you know, do an album. So I'm just kind of been sorting through all that. Being creative, I'm sure everybody who's creative here knows, is such a release, and I like music is my best friend. So it was pretty clear what I was gonna do with my time, and that was just to be creative, you know. And it saved me really. Otherwise, I'd be in the corner over there going.
Marcy, can I say one thing? We've never met, but I went to see your gig a couple of years ago in Brighton. It was probably, I was thinking, it might have even been the last gig I saw when you came over with Shakespeare's Sister, yeah? And then I just went out on my own shows, but I think yours was the last, not my show that I went to see. It was brilliant. Really was fantastic. So I know a little bit more about you than you do about me. It's really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that happened right before lockdown. The tour ended November 19th, and then
Yeah, that's
I
right.
got home, and then a few months later, we were lucky we got the tour in before all this craziness.
Yeah, that was great.
But I hear about, you know, what's going on over there, and it seems like it's been maybe worse than here. Although I don't know, we've had the worst leader previous to our current president.
We've
But
got the worst
it didn't
leader.
help much. I don't know
We have now.
at all.
You've got the worst leader.
So how's it been for you, Glenn?
It's been a bit, I don't know, it's been a bit of a taking stock kind of year. I was supposed to be going to the States right on the cusp of lockdown happening. I could see it coming, was it on, was it out? And I was actually going to spend most of last year in America. I had a work visa that did run out to November. My idea was to go there and play and finish mixing an album that I'd made just before lockdown. And it all kind of went tits up basically. So I was taking stock for a bit, but I'd been touring just before lockdown happened with Earl Slick, and he got stuck here. So I was basically wet nursing him for about 3 or 4 months, and we developed this kind of odd couple act. We did a few FaceTime live things and stuff and some recording at home, but basically I was going out, talking about foraging. I was the one going out foraging, keeping all the local takeaway coffee shops in business, and cooking for Earl Slick every bloody.
No, he didn't eat. When we went on tour, he never ate at all.
We didn't realise he'd done it. I was going like, I was playing the brush, but it was kind of fun.
I have to say,
But
the reason
also through all this, I mean, I was kind of lucky in a way. Not lucky in a way, but both my parents had died in recent years. They've not been in hospital, but they've been in the home. And it was hard work. My dad had Alzheimer's and my mum had had a stroke and stuff. And to have to have coped with seeing them in 2 separate homes with all the COVID thing going on, it must be dreadful. So in a way, I feel lucky they passed away when they did. It's not because I love my mum and dad, but it must have been terrible for some people, you know. I feel fortunate I didn't have to deal with any of it.
Sorry to interrupt.
Two
But
younger boys,
Yeah.
young adults now, but they both got COVID. One not very bad, well, not that badly, and one got it worse than he let on. But that kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works.
one of the reasons that Earl Slick is playing on this track is because I met him when he was staying at Glenn's. What a very cool dude he is. I was hoping he would be able to join us today, but he's in a session. But it's just amazing the way everyone has come together to get this record to where it is. And I have to say thank you, because a lot of the people who are on here right now are friends and friends of friends and have pulled out all the stops to help. So thank you very much to everyone. Jenny Bellstar, I know that you're on here.
hello, Jenny.
Hello, darling.
You're all right, love.
I know these two, Steve and Tony, forever. We've done some of the same gigs, some of the same TV shows, and you know, that's the way.
Loving your hair. Your hair is great.
But yeah, do you remember me, Steve? I remember you. In fact, Steve, I found some memorabilia for you.
No way.
Yes way.
Oh, you're talking about the drawing thing.
No, it's for Steve. It's from Steve Strange. Yeah, I've got it in my attic.
Did you really?
Yeah, original.
Oh, I treasure that. It's his original shirt that Amanda sent, right? Steve Strange, and I said to Amanda, he was a dear friend of mine, and I just called and I said, listen, Amanda, have you got an old scarf or something? I've got loads of pictures of Steve and memories, of course, but I just wanted just a little sort of thing. And she sent a box, and there was a pair of glasses, and I recognized where they were from, when they were from, and a shirt and his original Blitz calling card. He only had one, so he would show people and then get them to look at it, write it down, and take it back. So she gave me that original one. And but the shirt, I couldn't believe it.
Hang on, what was the
It
shirt?
hadn't been washed. You
What
what?
was the shirt like?
Right.
Well, it was a bit Hawaiian-y. I won't get it out now, but I'll show it to you. But it's still got makeup on it, and it smells of Steve. And I'm like, it's incredible. So I just put it back.
When Steve first came up to London, I'd met him when we played with the Pistols in the Stowaway Club in Newport.
Yeah.
We got matey and stuff.
He was with the Moors Murderers at the time, I think.
Well, no, even before then, right?
Yeah.
And he come up. I had my first flat in Chiswick, and he slept on my floor. But
Sounds about right.
I went out, I left him there, and I came back, and he's standing in the front of the mirror with all my Let It Rock gear on. And I'm sure I didn't get it all back. So maybe.
What are you trying to get it back? Yeah, right. It's not Let It Rock, mate. It ain't Let It Rock. Don't worry. And it won't fit you either.
Going back to Kenny, how has that done for you?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't know why I can hardly hear you, but I'm really kind of like, stretching to hear everybody.
Try to speak louder.
How was it for me? It's been non-stop. And what a lot of people don't know about me is I do charity work, and I've been doing charity work since 1999, where we feed the homeless. And during the COVID period, we were hence the reason why, when Liz asked me to do this, obviously I'm going to do something for a fellow entertainer or someone that's involved in the entertainment. And the double whammy here is that Steve was also a charitable person. So that was an absolute given for me as soon as Liz is a good friend of mine. So I said yes to that. But I'm with an organization called Food for All, and we feed anything from 2,000 to 5,000 people a day. And what we know, it's a big thing. Unfunded, I might add, but we have the love of the community, and we also have the love of every single supermarket within the area, because we're so well established. And so my job is to manage a hub that feeds the homeless in the West End area. And I was given a hotel, so I've gone up market, and I feed the homeless outside the hotel. So that was one of the things I did. And the other thing I did was I recognized how disheartening this whole period was for everybody. And so just like we're using technology now, I put a call out to the Facebook. I'm very popular on Facebook. And I put a call out and said, okay, let's write some songs. Send me a concept or all that kind of stuff. So I ended up writing songs with strangers. And then I got other people to do the videos for it. And they're up online and they're quite popular. Okay. And so we had kind of like we had a COVID writing session with people I've never met before.
That's wonderful.
And I did all that kind of stuff as well. So if you want, that's what I did for COVID.
Good. Amazing. How about you, Marianne?
Well, that's kind of what's been good about this and what we're doing now, as Jenny was saying. But I've ended up playing with quite a few different people I wouldn't have done otherwise. Like I did a session for some people in Buenos Aires and ended up on a record with Ian, with Arthur Brown singing. That's fantastic. One of my all-time. And I didn't even have to leave my house. It's great. And I think it's kind of cool that us lot who might be a little bit more forward looking than other people have embraced this technology and just kind of got on with something.
Can I ask you something? Does Arthur Brown still have his head on fire when he does that song?
I don't know because
He does.
it
He
must-
does. That's great.
must-
It's got to be done.
Do you know what? I went to see the New York Dolls when they all was playing, and they supported Alice Cooper. And I went up to the sound check with Earl at Alexandra Palace, and we was just chatting away in the band sound checking.
No,
They started doing Fire, and I wasn't really paying attention. And I thought, hang on a second, why are they doing Fire? And I thought, hang on a second, that's not Alice Cooper singing. It was
No.
Arthur Brown. And what had happened was Alice Cooper had invited Arthur Brown up to do the encore at the end, and Alice Cooper stood at the back of the stage singing backing vocals, and Arthur came on. Through the Fire thing. But after the first verse, he's supposed to take it off. We got stuck in the roadie. but beforehand, I was watching the Dolls down the front, and there's this bloke in a red tracksuit and a bobble hat. And it was Arthur Brown. He's dancing in the New York Dolls, and he's something coming off. Good boy, you know.
And it's funny you should say that because obviously Ian here, quite a few years ago now, Ian, isn't it? That when Arthur came back into the forefront of the music scene, I wrote an album with him called The Vampire Suite. So I was in the crazy world of Arthur Brown for a while, and I've done a few shows all over the place with him. And one of the funniest things, which I can guarantee none of you guys have ever done, have had a phone call from Arthur Brown to say, "Who's taking the crucifix to the airport?"
No, never happened.
You don't hear that line very often.
We got many in Arthur Brown, only got. It's for another time. We got many in Arthur Brown memory.
Oh, come on. Very, very funny man. I'll tell you one other one very quick. Arthur, I love him dearly. It was me and Mark Brzezicki from Big Country when I was playing with Big Country in those days. And I'm talking, 30 years ago, probably 27 years ago. And we were in the pub, and I got a pint of Pride for me and a pint of Pride for Mark. And Arthur said, "Well, I'll have a pint of whatever you're having." So of course, there's 3 pints of Pride sitting on the bar or on the table, and we're drinking them. I finished mine, Mark finishes his, and Arthur hasn't touched it, his at all. And I said to Arthur, "Is that all right, Arthur?" He said, "I wouldn't know. I don't drink." I said, well, I just thought I'd enjoy the experience with you. I said, "Well, good one, Arthur. What do you want now?" I said, "What do you want now?" He said, "I'll just have the money, please."
No, back to lockdown. Marion, how is it for you?
Oh, right. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you all.
Right.
Yeah, lockdown for me. Yeah, weird. But I play session strings, so I'm usually in a room watching somebody else press all the buttons, and then we weren't allowed to be in a room with other people pressing the buttons. So I bought the gear, and I taught myself to press the buttons, and learned how to do it. So this is like, this has been my office for the last year, and I've been. It was. I hate to say it was a really lovely time just to stop, not have to drive anywhere to gig, not have to drive to a studio, not have to be in London or Birmingham or anywhere. You could do it here. And going back to what you were saying, Glenn, like I've played with people in Amsterdam and Sydney and made friends online just through online, and just said, "Do you want some strings on stuff?" to complete strangers. And they've said, "Yeah, all right." And so I've done all that kind of stuff, and just transferring stems all over the place, and working with some people that I would never have met if lockdown hadn't happened. Because I live in Stratford-on-Avon, so it's kind of, I'm not in the hub of everywhere. So actually, it was kind of a bit of a blessing that it kind of didn't matter where you were. You could collaborate with anybody, and if the vibe was right, and if the music was right, and you kind of felt it was right, and you got on kind of online, then you just created something together, and that was incredibly liberating. It was really liberating, and teaching myself all the technology has been amazing. Paulie's helped a load with that. Paulie helped me buy my mini Mac, my Mac Mini, because I'm completely Mac phobic until lockdown, and then suddenly I discovered Macs, and it was like, whoa. I had to phone my daughter to work out how to shut down the damn thing because it didn't work out how to shut it down. But yeah, so first lockdown was a lovely kind of breath of fresh air and just some space to create and learn new things. So I've been on a massive learning curve and worked with some fantastic people, your good selves included, which has been an amazing experience. So thank you for having me on board. And to go to the NHS, I've just pulled up this picture, right? So my mum, right, this is on my phone. My mum was born in if I hold it, I don't know where to hold it. Oh, it won't work. Anyway, this is the picture. Oh, get closer. No, it won't work. No, look, can't see it. Anyway, it's a really lovely picture of my mum. If I hold it on an angle, you can just about see it. She was born in June in 1948, just when the NHS was created. And this picture is of her being immunised. She was one of the very first babies to be immunised under the NHS, and she was in this picture's from the Daily Mail or something when she was immunised, and they lived in intense poverty in Liverpool and then post-war Liverpool, and so the NHS was an absolute godsend because the life expectancy in Liverpool then was very poor for newborns. And then she went on and was a nurse, trained as a nurse in Liverpool, and spent 50 years in the NHS and retired not very long ago, and is now a volunteer in our local hospital here, and was a school nurse, a ward nurse, a maternity nurse, a matron. Then went back to health visiting and was and it was funny when all the kids my kids' age. Were in the school playground, and she went to go and pick up my kids from school. All the mums knew her because she was their health visitor, and she helped them with their babies, and she looked after them. And she devoted her entire world, her life, to working for the NHS and gave everything. So, like you were saying, Josh, that logo, it's been in my life always. Always, it's just always been there. And I remember one of my treasured presents. When you're a kid and you look through your parents' things and there's sparkly things, and you pick up a sparkly thing. Her fob watch was the thing that I loved playing with. I'd pin it on myself, a little fob watch that you'd look at like that. So so the NHS, so this was a no-brainer to do it. And Paul very sweetly asked me to come and do strings on it, and it was just great fun. Just playing the same thing over and over again in my room here, which is lovely. It's nice to get out and do something and play for you lovely people. So thank you very much for having me as part of it. But it's been it's been a strange time. I've been very lucky. I've not had any kind of personal tragedies through COVID, but I know friends who have. And my second mother, if you like, died. Again, going back to what you said, Glenn, my adoptive mother, my best friend's mum, died just before lockdown. So we were able to be around her bedside when she died. And I can't even begin to imagine what it must have felt like if it had been 4 weeks later and we hadn't been able to say goodbye to her. We were able to be there with her when she went. So it's a very special thing to be involved in.
I've not had any personal examples, but Dave Greenfield, when he went. Stranglers Dave Greenfield. I was just wondering who that was in the bottom left, and I thought John Eshel was young, but it's Matt, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
Hi.
Yeah, hello, I'm Matt.
Hi.
I'm Tony's manager. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Matt.
How was it for you?
How's it for me? Well, I think it breaks down into sections. That first lockdown, because I think we all thought it wasn't going to last too long, and maybe just 2 or 3 months. In a way, it was a bit of a break, wasn't it? I mean, we had a bit of time off, and we were, the first sort of 2 or 3 months, it seemed like, it was just everything was stalling, and we get back to work. But then there was that point where suddenly we cancelled the year, and everything. I think for us with Tony. We literally got back at the end of February, beginning of March from doing an Australian tour, and that was the last thing we did. And the band and crew of Tony's, and then I also look after a number of other acts. Everyone's been obviously sat at home, as everyone else has here, and it's just been trying to keep people positive. And as a manager, there's always things to do. I mean, there's still emails every day. There's still questions to answer for clients, etc. But it's just, I think the thing that I've missed most and I don't think I really realised until sort of later last year, is just the personal interaction. You know, my life is being around people. It's being at shows. It's you know, it's hanging out with the band. It's hanging out with the crew. It's doing that thing that we all like doing. That social thing, and that's what I realised I missed the most. I mean, with Tone, it's been great because we started in I think in April last year we started doing a band Zoom every week. So every Tuesday night we have the band and crew on, and there's usually about 12 to 14 of us. And it's the banter. It's that banter that we all love when we see each other and we do gigs, whether it's with the band or with your sound engineers or your guitar techs or your tour managers or whatever.
Piss taking,
I think
piss taking is what it is.
Well, that's it. But
we don't have any of that anymore.
I know, but that piss taking is such a part of our days. It's because I think essentially we're all still kids. I think. I mean, I certainly I know. Hanging out with you, Steve Norman, and you, Tony Hadley, you're as childish as you ever were.
Yeah,
so
I'm proud of that. I love it.
I think it's I think the frustrating thing has been, and still is just not knowing quite when we can get back to reality. I think there's been a few false starts, and even now I think. We're all trying to be optimistic about the summer, and I still hope, that we'll be working at some point in the summer. If it's the end of June, great. I have a feeling it could end up being the end of July. And I think with Marcella in the States, I mean, it's been, you've had such a rough ride over there, and I think for the US touring and European touring, Italy, etc., they're so much further behind. I mean, I think our industry is going to take so long to recover properly from this, but it's trying to just be positive, isn't it? I mean, I think it's being positive, trying to do things, and things like this project and other things that Tone's done or we've looked at over the past few months. It's you just want to try and spread a bit of happiness because it's what you get back from that as well. The giving and the getting back from the giving, I think, is so important.
It's, it's a good point, Matt. I mean, something I was doing a lot and I'm still doing is I've got basically a piece of driftwood that sits on top of a box, and I've got some gaffer tape that holds my phone up there, and that's been my microphone and singing thing. So I've done loads of shout outs for NHS and singing songs and stuff like that. People birthdays, anniversaries, and just stuff like that, just as Matt says, to try and make people a bit happy. You get schools sending things, the kids, if you can vibe them up a bit or whatever, they were at Young Voices or something. But then I don't know if any of you guys have got young kids, but
sorry, Tone, is that interesting? Do you want that? I found that bit. If you work away, you've got half a set of drumsticks.
See,
you
look,
need to whittle away a little bit.
That's the gaffer tape. That's the gaffer. It's quite a long piece. Look.
It's really good. I reckon that will go in there nicely.
So, because I'm not very technical, see, so that's just like driftwood. It just works. But no, I mean the other thing, I don't know any of you guys got young kids. Matt's got George, who's the same age as my Zara. You got Josh. You got young kids. Homeschooling. I've got when it's all started, I got an 8-year-old, 13, then they're 9 and 14. Homeschooling. Oh my God! And it's really weird. It's bad when your 9-year-old says, "Dad, they don't do it like that. It's not like the old days anymore." And you're trying to do maths.
You're doing long division.
They don't do long division.
They don't do it.
No, they don't do it.
None of that.
And then
that's just
the grammar, right? This is the grammar for like my 8-9-year-old sort of fronted adverbials, personifications, onomatopoeia, similes. Okay, similes are okay. I mean, I'm like, what?
Google is your friend.
No, do you know what I did?
Like you're back at school again,
a bit like Harry. Well, I'll tell you what I did, a bit like Harry Redknapp. I went, Ali, come on here. And so Ali did the
Is
English.
he married
and
to
the
Ali
maths.
as well then?
He's married to Sandra, So she did the maths and the English. I did the geography and the science and history. But I couldn't do it. This is ridiculous. And we went to grammar school, Steve, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I'm just trying to. What do they do if they don't do the lines under long division and stuff?
They got
Yeah,
bubbles.
yeah,
Bubbles.
calculator. Bubbles?
No.
What's that about?
David, before we get to Paul, Liz, how is it for you?
Paul,
No, you, Liz.
me. Well, I don't have any kids to have to tutor at home,
Calculate.
but I was very, very lucky. I spent 6 months in Mallorca during the lockdown doing gardening for a friend of mine who had bought a big house out there. But the cool thing is that Steve Brown and Jackie Brown, his wife, and one of their sons and girlfriends came out in September and hung out for a couple of weeks. So I got to spend a lot of time with Steve. And I've known Steve since like 2004. I met him when he was in Wales in a recording studio producing The Alarm. Steve Norman, you know about that band.
Yeah.
And I'd always been a fan of his though, because he produced The Cult, the big fans of The Cult, Manic Street Preachers, etc. But what the cool thing about Steve is that since he wasn't doing as much producing, he was all about raising awareness for people who were less fortunate. And one of the things he was doing in the 6 months up to his passing was he had a couple of foundations on the go, and it was for musicians with sort of addiction issues. He was raising money, and Margaret Trudeau, who's Pierre Pierre, the mother was the patron of his charity, and he was always endeavoring to help others. And I just wanted to, because I have it up in front of me, I want to read something about Steve that his wife Jackie said, which was, and I think anybody who knows him would agree, he was the loveliest of men, kind, generous, incredibly funny. He lit up a room with his humor and always tried to help those with less than he had. He left a true legacy, both professionally and personally. And that's, I think, absolutely true. I mean, if you knew Steve at all, you would know that when he left, so did the light and the soul of the party. What was really cool about what we've all done is that this is what he wanted to do. This is what he was working on. I mean, literally the day before he fell and was airlifted to St. George's, he was talking to me about doing a record, getting everybody involved to try to raise awareness for the NHS, raise awareness for the fact that the hospitality industry was suffering so badly. We were going to do a Christmas record. It was a little too late to get it out because he was talking to me at like the end of November. Of course, the lead time would have been August, right? But the cool thing is that I have emails that say I would really, from Steve Brown to me, I would love Tony Hadley to sing this. So the fact that Tony has sung on the record is, I told Jackie Brown at Steve's funeral, at his service, that Tony was going to sing on it. And I mean, it was a very, very sad day anyway, but she had a massive smile and tears coming down her face and just said, I know he's here with us and I know he knows that. And what a comfort to me that what he wanted to do, what he was trying to do has been moved forward, and you all are getting it underway. John Giddings was the one that sort of initially took the project by the horns and got Ian involved and Paul Mitchell involved, and Paul Gilly was already involved. And I'm just so glad that last December, we were able to get this together and get it to the place where it is right now. So lockdown, a lot of the sort of lockdown has been working on this, but it was because of Steve Brown that that we decided to do it. And what a great tune. And thank you again to everybody for your talent and your effort.
I'd also like to say, I mean, I didn't know Steve that well. I knew him a little bit, but in more recent, over the past year or so, through Elizabeth, I got a bit more involved with Steve, and I thought he was a lovely, lovely chap, and he was quite helpful to me in a couple of things, really quite recently before he had his fall, which he didn't need to do. I really appreciated him for that. But you know, it's through Elizabeth kind of knowing him that, you know, I do feel I've been privileged to be asked to be involved through this, and Liz kind of helped through me to get Slick and Clem and Jenny involved. So I think big hands to Liz on that front.
Yeah, 100%.
Also,
Paul, without lockdown, it wouldn't be happening. That's how we started a year ago.
Yeah, that's
and also well done, Marcello. I've got to say, great vocal, love.
There's
Really.
a great vocal.
Yeah, woo!
I tell you what's great about it is that it's so you, it's your style and everything else, which makes it different. And I brilliant job.
Well, I thank you so much. I wanted you to sing more with me. You know, I really wanted to hear your voice. And when I do hear your voice, it's like, yes, I want more. But
do you know what though?
I know Steve, but Ian contacted me to do this, and I was like so beyond grateful and flattered to do it and to be a part of this. It's such a great cause. But I obviously knew about Steve's accomplishments. And, you know,
Yeah.
Truly respected the man. I wish I could have gotten to know him.
So the lead singer of Duff Paddy, that's his band, Duff Paddy.
That's one of my alter egos. No, I mean I have to say this whole process has been quite weird. And I mean, you know, some of you know me better than others, and I've obviously got to know some of you more through this particular process, and it's been bonkers. I mean, I come from a very grounded London working class family where, you know, I grew up with nobody ever doing anything extraordinary, but we all either wanted to be footballers or, you know, or musicians. And I think I've been turned down by every major record label in the world, quite a lot of them to my face. I've been turned down.
We all have. We all have,
by
mate.
some pretty impressive people, you know.
So what team do you play for, Paul? What team do you play for?
Exactly. You know, I did play for the Virgin Records football team. How about that? It's halfway there, isn't it? It's halfway there. But no, the end of 2019 was weird for me. You know, my kids live with their mum in London. They were growing up. I was in a relationship down here where I live, which was going the wrong way, and I had to get out of that. I had a business that was started, and right at the beginning of lockdown, I just moved out of my house, and I moved into a rented place, which is where I am. And I basically took a lot of gear's gone into storage, and I just thought, well, I'll set up my sort of studio stuff that I've got here. And it was the first time for ages that I'd lived on my own, and all of a sudden we were all told we couldn't go anywhere.
Oh no.
House party was the sort of thing, and there was a group of my little local group of mainly girls from the pub, the landlady of the pub and a couple of others, and they used to phone me up and, you know, see what was going on. And they said one night that, you know, they said, well, what would your song for lockdown be? What would it be, you know, in this first month? And I couldn't really come up with a clever answer. And the next morning in the shower, I thought, Eric Carmen, All by Myself.
Oh.
By the time I got out of the shower, I'd rewritten the first couple of verses, right? The first one is, Tony, like me, likes a pint, and my local beer is Young's, which has always been my favourite London beer. So, of course, the original lyrics for that song are, when I was young, I never needed anyone. Well, I started by saying, when I had Young's, I never needed anyone. And I rewrote the whole song, and then I thought, well, My friends in America aren't going to know what Young's here. I better show them that it's a beer. And I did a video and I started to put it all together. Well, I put it up on YouTube and Ian saw it and it got a fair few hits. Of course, YouTube came on and said, this is somebody else's song. You can't make any money off this, you know. I mean, Eric Carmen's obviously made a fortune off my version already. But anyway, but the point was, Ian called me. And I mean, you know, I've known Ian for a number, 20 years or so through some joint mates in Worthing. But he said to me, that's really great. You know, how did you do it? I said, well, it's just, you know, it's not that difficult, really, with the technology that's available. And he said, would you think, wouldn't it be fun? And Ian being Ian, he just said, look, I've got a massive Rolodex. Let's phone a few people. And that was the first one we did with Arthur and Josh and various other, Tony Butler and various other people. And that all sort of came together. And it just, I think the initial part of it was, that first part of lockdown was interesting in as much as I think there was, you learned very quickly who you really cared about. That was the first thing. There was people that you saw in the pub or in town or in your neighborhood who were either your proper friends or people you just ran into. And all of a sudden, you only heard from the people that really cared about you. So you realized during that, you were going to say something, Marion. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say. So Paul and I, we know each other from the folk rock circuit, and I play in various bands that I know Paul through, and Cropredy and stuff. But like Paul, as we all know, is a fantastic geezer, and I only ever saw Paul once a year at Cropredy at the bar for 3 days solid. Yes, but I've spoken. What's been really fantastic, a really lovely thing about all of this, and a real take home about it, and something that I hope we all treasure and keep going with, is that people like Paul, who you might only have seen once a year, I've spoken more to you, Paul, this year than ever, all together. In the 15 years I've known you.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we've just been messaging every week and lots of chit chat, and now what was already a dear friendship is now a really dear friendship.
Yeah,
and you do realize those people that are they're your tribe, and they're the people that you kind of magnated towards, and that you spent more time talking to and getting to know.
Yeah,
it's been lovely.
I think the thing about this is that when this all came about and started, the world wasn't prepared for this. Yet some of the world like the leading minds of the world. I mean, Bill Gates predicted this 15 years ago. He said the next big thing to really fuck up humanity is there's going to be a disease. There's going to be something, and nobody was ready for it. The World Health Organization didn't know how to handle it. Governments around the world have handled it in different ways. It's all been screwed up. I mean, you only have to look at what Donald Trump was telling people to put bloody Domestos in their tea. I mean, it was terrible. But the point is that this whole thing has made the world stop and think. We've all had to find new ways of doing things. And I think the thing about all of this, at the very beginning of it, we did some of these charity things, and we were saying, let's raise money for musicians who can't work, help musicians and all of that stuff, which is true. There was a shitload of musicians who were just relying on doing clubbing gigs every week, and they paid their bills from earning 100 quid a night playing in some, up and down the country. That was the majority of, we're not all talking big money gigs, So help musicians. I mean, in the first week, they gave 17,000 people 500 quid just to keep tea and biscuits on the table, right? There was all those things. But then when you start appealing to people, where does charity start? I mean, it's really difficult to know. So trying to get people to cough up for this is for this kind of stuff.
It starts at home, Paul. That's the problem, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because everyone's in the same boat.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, those resources that those kind of people you described we're relying on are not there anymore.
No. Well, also the thing is that the money, the traditional money that you could make in the music business has gone. The only way you can make money now, as we all know, is gigging. Right, it's the only way you can do it. You get 20,000 plays on Spotify, and you're still only making about $30 or $40. It's ridiculous. You don't make any money, so nobody makes any money from downloads. Music's free now. The world gets music for nothing, right? So the fact is that when this came up, and when Paul Gilly sort of, when Ian asked me, and I didn't know Steve Brown, I didn't have the good fortune to ever meet the man, which is a real shame considering he, it turns out that what a top geezer he was. But I knew him by reputation through what he'd done and the stuff that he'd worked on. But the whole idea of this, when Paul Gilly sort of showed me what it was all about, I thought there couldn't be a better cause than this. In the whole, this trumps everything. Because at the end of the day, if your job is a low-paid care worker and you're just doing your job and you die because you're helping save other lives, there's nothing, it can't be anything bigger than this. So the whole thing was like, if I can help and get involved in this, 100%, I'll do it. Whatever we have to do, we'll do it. It's not difficult, you know, and all of us know our wives and girlfriends and partners and all of that, and husbands and whatever else, and families all suffer with us being creative types. All of them do, because we spend a lot of time, you know, I've got to write, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and everybody else has to stand and watch. So we you know, that people sacrifice just being our, so we, you know, my gorgeous partner, she sat right here looking at the screen, but I mean, she's had to put up with it, you know, me beavering away and doing all this, but I sort of go to bed and think, well, there's people who've died through this, through not from catching the disease because they weren't careful. They did it because they put themselves in the front line, and that, you know, that's it. So I think what we've managed to do with this, I mean, it is, of course, anything you get involved in like this, Joe, it deserves to go big. I mean, some of you on here, I know, were involved in Band-Aid and all that kind of stuff when it came about. And that, you know, look what happened with that. I'm not saying we've got the same opportunity now because this is, you know, the music's for free. But if this just raises awareness of the charity, raises enough money for Paul Gilly to do however many 100 more of these we've got to do, and everybody, you know, I think everybody in the country should get one of these, you know, every family, and we can go worldwide with it. You know, there's 20 times as many people in North America who've died in caregiving through this disease. And that's not without everywhere else in the world. So I think that what we may have started with this could even be something that outlives some of us. This thing could get really, really big. And from that point of view, I think that humbles me to think that just by being able to use a bit of technology to make this happen, and perseverance. I mean, when Tony Hadley and I first spoke about this, and he said, look, I'd love to do it, but I don't even have a microphone in my house. And people are going like, Tony Hadley doesn't have a microphone. I said, well, no. I said, okay, sing into your phone. We'll take the audio off that and we'll make it work. And that's what's there. I mean, if you tell people the vocal on this thing that's going to get played on the radio is you singing into your phone. How bonkers is that?
You can still send them a telex though. If you want.
No, I do it with smoke outside in the garden there, send messages, you know. Listen, guys, I don't mean to be rude, but I've got to go because I've got to put my youngest to bed. My wife's not here, she's at cricket with Zara, so I've got to get my youngest one, my little Genevieve, who's only 9, get her into bed and get her ready with a story. So I've got to love you and leave you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much for today.
I love Tony. See you later, mate.
Well, listen, congratulations, everyone. But Paul, I'm glad you're all right, mate. It's good. And I'll talk to you next day or so, yeah?
Yeah, that's great. And he found love again. That's the most important thing.
You are?
He's found love again, Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, that's all right.
Come on, reveal
She's a bit shy, Paul. She's a bit...
It's a happy ending.
Love is all about everybody.
I hope you're very happy.
I see. Bye, take care. Good luck. See you, John. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye, bye. Bye.
Hang on.
Oh, Glenn.
Up, see you later, Glenn. Tell her, mate.
I'm going to get a drink.
I've got to put the little one to bed. I'll see you later. I've got to put my Genevieve to bed.
Wake up. What's wrong with you?
What did you say?
He said he's got to put his daughter Genevieve to bed.
Oh, right, okay.
His youngest, she's only 9.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was it basically. I just, you know, I just wanted to say it's been an absolute pleasure doing it, and it's been, you know, it's been a hell of an achievement. But I think it's all for an amazingly good cause, and it's been my obviously absolute privilege to work with all, you know, all of you lot. And
I have to say, like, Steve does the best video dancing.
Oh my God! How great to Steve!
I've got to say something.
Just amazing, just like amazing.
Listen,
No shoes on.
I was misled. He said to me, Paul, who's top left-hand corner, you said to me, do you remember? I said, what's the video like? Oh, it's got to be like full frontal so that there's a bit of movement. Yeah. And I thought, great. So I'll give it a big one, thinking there's Slicky there, you know, with Lee going around him. Glenn can move about when he wants to, you know, when he wanted to. And then all of a sudden it's all like that.
Oh,
So I I kind of, I just felt like a little Mexican jumping bean for a little while when I saw it popped in there, you know. But listen, thank you, Liz. I don't know what a tamale is, though. I'm sorry.
Well,
Bacon or something.
It's a learning curve, but I think you got it. I think you got
No,
it.
but
Steve looks
Steve and I spoke
amazing.
about it.
it looks good. Everybody look. It's
looks
lovely to
25
see
years
everyone
old
in
jumping
there,
around.
weren't it? It's lovely to see
Oh.
everyone in there.
Did
I
we-
told Paul to tone me down. Can't have that. Boing, 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 boing.
Did we not get John Etchells into the Zoom? Is he not with us, John Etchells? No.
He's, to be honest, he was scheduled to have a call with his son Joe and his grandson Jack at the same time, and
Okay.
he doesn't get to speak to the two of them very often. So it's
Well, he did say, he said, I don't think I've ever done a Zoom before. Now I have two at the same time, but I will endeavor. So, I mean, we can talk to him separately later. I think that the promo for this track, we're working on, getting the press and promo into place, but everybody, if you would be available to speak, to the press or be available to have a chat or have a situation in the next few weeks, because I think the launch date for this is the 4th of June, and we've got a few people in our back pocket that might do it for mates rates or even nothing, charity rates, that might be calling upon you to talk about the project. So I'm hoping that people will make themselves available for that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
have a little
you.
chat.
Will we be
Thank you.
Liz,
Yeah.
will we be given some notice on that? Because it's like
Absolutely. No, it'll be
the day before, it's like, oh, how can
no, babe, it'll be set up, properly. Absolutely.
Okay.
And please share when everything is finalized and edited and finished. Please share it on all your platforms. Have all your fans look and see what you're doing, and what a great cause it's for. Please.
What date can we share that with? What date?
Paul Mitchell, what are we looking at as far as the final for the, well, John Etchells was waiting to see if there were any other notes on the track.
No,
I don't think that there are now.
Track's done. The official release date is the 4th of June, and that's purely and simply because it takes about 5 to 6 weeks to get it ready on all the platforms so that you can say it's everywhere, because you can't really go live with it until it's everywhere.
We were talking about the teaser going out of this, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we could. It depends if what we've basically said is that BBC Breakfast can have it as a sort of a UK exclusive to be, it's the premiere for the video, which might be a couple of days before. We'll have to see, but it'd be nice to think that they all might tune in like they did for the Thriller video on Channel 4. But see.
When there were only 4 channels.
Band-Aid and Thriller.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I mean, the video will be done in the next week, I should imagine, the final cut of that, and then that'll be top and tail with probably a bit about Angels of the Nation, and then there'll be the credits, etc. So I mean, we've got a bit of time, and I think we just again, I'm not really involved in the press and PR part of it. Ian and Liz will manage that. So. But yeah, obviously, the more people that are available to talk about it, the better.
Can I just say to Marcy, what a great vocal, and thank you so much. It's just awesome. Really appreciate it. Yeah,
Thank
chills
you.
up and down. The goosebumps are going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Everybody did a wonderful job. Everybody really put their heart and souls into it. So it was an honor to work with you.
The reason I thought of you was Eric Clapton Hyde Park in 18.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Our little reunion back in 2018. Yeah, the first time I'd been on stage with them since 1985 when we did Live Aid. And I was going to be in London anyway doing some shows. So I contacted his personal assistant, who's a dear friend of mine. I said, I'm going to be in London. I would love to join you. So he invited me to join him. To that crowd, it was amazing.
Oh, I bet.
There's one other thing actually that John Etchells wanted me to mention, Marcy, because he it turns out that he had worked with you before, but you probably would never have remembered or known. But he was working. So there's an old grey whistle test. Of
Oh, yeah.
You with Eric and Yvonne Elliman and that whole band, Cole Raddle and Etch was the producer or sound engineer for those sessions at the BBC. So John Etchells was on that. So I know,
He did the sound for the show.
yeah, did the sound for that live recording.
Oh, that seems like another lifetime ago.
Yeah, well,
Can I add to that? As you know, Paul, I don't know if the rest of you know, but 40 years ago, just over now by about 4 months or something, John and I, last time we saw each other was recording the very first Spandau album over 40 years ago, you know, Johnny's the Glory. And there it was, and literally just before, because you know you get all these sort of anniversaries start kicking in. We're going to have it off, you know, us lot. You know, because every year it's like, oh,
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. 45 years.
So John Etchells, I haven't seen him for all those years. I'm really looking forward to when we go for that pint, Paul.
I know.
In virtual one or
Here's one for Glenn. 45 years ago tonight, we were in the same room.
Is that right? No way.
Texas room.
Where? Oh,
The Nashville.
Wow.
Nashville rooms.
Rich kids? No?
Well, yeah. all that. What I'm more interested in, I don't know if you remember, you mentioned football earlier on. I played for Mickey Mouse rec team on a Sunday morning or Sunday morning. We played against.
I played against them, actually. Yeah.
Well, I was playing for rec and we played against you guys. But
That's right. Yeah.
I cleared off the line in the last minute of the game, but I can't remember the result. I'm sure.
Oh, we mashed you.
You're QPR, aren't you?
Yeah, he's a QPR fan, aren't you, Glenn?
Yeah, I certainly am.
But when we do
about that,
when we do eventually all get round together somewhere for a drink in the summer, hopefully before the summer's over, John Etchells can tell the story about one of Tony Hadley's vocals on that first session.
In the tent.
Oh yeah.
Steve, you can tell him now.
Well, we were in Jam Studios. It doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if you know it, Glenn, or anyone. It was in Hornsey. It was a lovely place, Torrington Avenue, and we'd done a few studios, but loved it there. And Richard James Burgess was recording, but Tony went in there, and his voice, you know, it's off the scale. It still is, you know. He opened his mouth, and the fader just goes bang, you know, like that. And you can mess around with compressors as much as you like, but it doesn't quite sound right. It sounds like, you know, there's not enough of him. You have to really squeeze him in so it don't peak. And so Richard was really thinking of all these ideas. So I just got this endearing vision of Tony, like through the proper old school studios. You're in the control room, the glass, big recording area. And there's nothing in there except in the middle of the room, there's one carpet, and then there's two mic stands and another carpet, like Persian type, which we got from the cafe up the stairs, and just sort of folded it over these microphone stands to kind of capture his voice. And there was this sort of gap at the end, like you are in the tent, you know, and he's singing away and he's going, whoa, you know, it's a big old voice, you know, coming out of there. And like, we all look at each other, my God, you know, and then at the end of it, he goes, is that all right? And you see this puff of smoke coming out because he's still got one on, you know. It was like half a daily behind the curtain in Minder. It was hilarious. I'll never forget that. So we're going to see each other and immediately talk about that, me and John. I'm sure. Yeah. Very funny.
That is so cool. Oh my God.
Is that all right? Yeah. Sure, we've got a few of them.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you.
I think we should all go. It's getting on a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, so much.
Yes,
So nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, I
Lovely
think
to see.
I'm going to bail out as well, guys. You
Yeah,
know,
me
lots
too.
of love to you all. Really lovely to touch base with the ones I know, or you I know, and also, you know, to make new friends. Bless you all, and we'll all be in touch. Yeah, count me in, Liz, for promo.
Pleasure, babe. Glad to
Bye,
hear
everyone.
it. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Keep dancing, Steve. Keep dancing.